My name is Emily, and I am 30 years old. I have been married to Tom for 7 years now, and we have a 3-year-old son named Jack. Tom works as a businessman and is often required to travel for work. He's a hard-working man, but I always miss him terribly when he's away. I, on the other hand, work from home, so I have the flexibility to take care of Jack and our home. One day, as I was working on my laptop, Tom came into the room, looking dapper in his business suit. "Hey, he said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. "I have some news for you." "What's that?" I asked, looking up from my screen. "I have to go to New York City for a week-long business trip next week," he said. "It's a big opportunity, and I can't pass it up." I felt a pang of disappointment. "A whole week," I said, pouting a little. "I'll miss you." "I'll miss you too, babe," he said, sitting down next to me. "But it's just a week. I'll be back before you know it." I sighed and leaned into him, feeling his warm embrace. "I know," I said, "but I hate it when you're away." "I know," he said, kissing me on the forehead, "but I promise I'll make it up to you when I get back." We chatted for a little longer before Tom had to leave for a meeting. As he walked out the door, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Tom's trips had always been a source of anxiety for me, but I trusted him completely. Little did I know that this time, things were about to take a turn for the worse. Tom's supposed week-long business trip to New York City was supposed to start on Sunday, but by Monday evening, I stumbled upon a photo on my Instagram feed that shattered my world. It was a photo of Tom and another woman, smiling and holding hands in Miami. The caption read, "So happy to be spending time with my love in Miami." I was in shock, my heart pounding in my chest. How could Tom do this to me? I couldn't believe that he would cheat on me and to lie about it on top of that. I was furious and hurt. I quickly called Tom, and when he answered, I asked him where he was. In my hotel room in New York," he said, sounding a little hesitant. "Really? Because I just saw a photo of you in Miami with another woman," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Emily, I can explain," he said finally. "Explain what, Tom?" I said, feeling a wave of anger wash over me. "You lied to me, and you're cheating on me. How could you do this?" "I'm sorry, Emily," he said, his voice sounding defeated. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I'll come back as soon as I can, and we'll talk about this." I hung up the phone, feeling a mix of emotions. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront Tom immediately, while another part of me wanted to plan my next move carefully. But one thing was for sure, I couldn't let Tom get away with this. I spent the next few hours in a daze, trying to process what had just happened. Tom had lied to me and cheated on me, and I was devastated. I couldn't believe that the man I loved had betrayed me like this. I spent hours scrolling through the woman's social media accounts, trying to piece together the extent of Tom's betrayal. It was like a punch to the gut every time I saw a photo of the two of them together, laughing and enjoying themselves. I couldn't believe that Tom had the audacity to do this while I was at home taking care of our son. When Tom finally came home, I was a mess of emotions. I felt angry, hurt, and betrayed, and I didn't know what to say to him. When he walked in the door, he could tell immediately that something was wrong. "Emily, what's going on?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "You lied to me," I said, my voice trembling. "You told me you were going to New York for a business trip, but you were actually in Miami with your mistress." Tom's face fell, and he looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. "Emily, I'm so sorry," he said, reaching out to touch my arm. "Don't touch me," I said, pulling away. "I can't believe you did this to me, Tom. How could you cheat on me like this?" Tom looked down, shame evident on his face. "I don't know, Emily," he said. "It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." "A mistake," I said, incredulous. "How is cheating on me with another woman a mistake?" "Do you even love me anymore?" "Of course I love you," Tom said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I made a stupid decision and I'm sorry. Please, Emily, give me a chance to make it right." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive Tom and move on, but another part of me felt like he had broken something that could never be fixed. I needed time to think. After Tom's confession, I spent the next few days in a haze. I couldn't eat or sleep. and I spent all my time thinking about what had happened. But as the shock started to wear off, I realized that I wasn't going to let Tom get away with what he had done. I was going to make him pay. I started to come up with a plan, something that would hurt him as much as he had hurt me. I knew that I couldn't just forgive him and move on, not after what he had done. I needed to make him feel the pain and betrayal that I had felt. I spent hours researching revenge tactics, from the simple to the elaborate. Eventually, I settled on a plan that I thought would be perfect. When Tom came home from work one day, I sat him down and told him that I had made a decision. "Tom, I've thought long and hard about what you did," I said, my voice steady, "and I've decided that I can't forgive you." Tom looked like he was about to say something, but I held up a hand to stop him. "But I'm not going to divorce you either," I continued. "No, Tom, I have a much better plan." Tom looked at me, confusion written all over his face. "What plan?" he asked. "I'm going to make you feel the same pain and betrayal that I felt," I said, a wicked smile spreading across my face. "I'm going to make you regret ever cheating on me." Tom's eyes widened, and he looked like he was about to protest. But before he could say anything, I continued. "I'm going to start by selling the house," I said, my tone calm and matter-of-fact, "and I'm going to take our son with me. You'll never see us again." Tom's face fell, and he looked like he was about to cry. "Emily, please," he said, his voice pleading. "I'll do anything to make it up to you." "It's too late for that, Tom," I said, standing up from the table. "The damage is done. And now, it's time for you to pay the price." The next few weeks were a blur as I put my plan into action. I started by contacting a real estate agent and putting our house up for sale. It was a beautiful home, and I knew it would sell quickly. I made sure to take all of my belongings and my son's belongings with me to a hotel, leaving Tom with nothing but an empty house. Tom tried to call and text me, but I ignored all of his messages. He even showed up at the hotel, begging me to come back home. But I stood my ground, telling him that he had made his choice, and now it was my turn to make mine. As the days passed, I started to feel better. I was taking control of the situation, and I felt like I was finally getting the revenge that I deserved, but I wasn't done yet. One night, I made a fake social media profile and started following Tom's mistress. I watched her every move, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and then, one day, it came. Tom's mistress posted a picture of them together at a fancy restaurant. They were smiling and laughing, completely unaware that I was watching. I printed out the picture and made copies, then I put them all over town. I posted them on bulletin boards in coffee shops, and even in Tom's office building. I knew that Tom's reputation would be ruined when people found out that he had been cheating on me. And I was right. The next day I started getting calls and messages from people all over town. They were all asking if it was true, and I just smiled and said yes. Tom was humiliated. He couldn't show his face in public, and he even lost his job because of the scandal. But I wasn't done yet. I filed for divorce and got custody of our son. I moved to another city, and Tom was left with nothing. He had lost his job, his wife, and his son, all because of his own selfish actions. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I knew that Tom still had one thing that was important to him, his car. So I decided to take that away too. I had a friend who worked at a towing company, and I asked her to tow Tom's car and sell it. She did, and I got the money for it. When Tom found out, he was furious. He called me and yelled at me, but I just laughed and hung up the phone. I had finally gotten my revenge, and it felt amazing. Tom had gotten exactly what he deserved, and I was finally able to move on with my life. It had been months since I had seen or spoken to Tom. I had moved on with my life and had no desire to speak to him again. But one day, I received a phone call from him. "Hello?" I answered, recognizing his voice immediately. "Hey, it's me, Tom," he said, his voice shaking. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just wanted to apologize," he said, sounding sincere. I scoffed. "Apologize for what? For cheating on me? For lying to me? For ruining our marriage?" "Yes, all of that," he said, his voice breaking. "I know I messed up, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I sighed, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It's too late for apologies, Tom. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I know, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But please, can we meet and talk about it? I just want to make things right. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I wanted to see him again, but part of me was curious to hear what he had to say. Fine, I said finally. Meet me at the park tomorrow at noon. The next day, I arrived at the park early, my heart pounding in my chest. I spotted Tom walking towards me, and I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and even a little bit of nostalgia. Hey, he said, approaching me cautiously. Hi, I said, crossing my arms. Tom looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. You already said that, I said, my tone cold. I know, he said, taking a step closer to me. But I mean it. I messed up, and I know I can't take it back, but I just want you to know that I regret what I did. I looked at him, feeling conflicted. Part of me wanted to forgive him, but another part of me knew that it was too late. I appreciate your apology, Tom, I said finally, but it doesn't change what you did. You broke my heart, and I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. Tom looked down, his eyes filled with tears. I understand, he said softly. There was a moment of silence between us before Tom spoke again. Can I at least see our son, please? I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I wanted Tom to have any part in my life or our son's life. But then I looked at him, and I saw the pain in his eyes. He had lost everything, and I knew that seeing our son would bring him some comfort. Okay, I said finally. You can see him, but only for a little while, and no more than once a month. Tom nodded, looking grateful. Thank you, he said softly. We spent the next hour talking and catching up, and it felt almost like old times. But I knew that things could never go back to the way they were. Tom had hurt me too much, and I couldn't just forget about it. As we parted ways, I knew that this was the end of our relationship, but I also knew that I had finally gotten the closure that I needed to move on with my life. It had been over a year since Tom and I had talked at the park. In that time, I had started to heal and move on with my life. I had even started dating again, and I was happy. But then one day, out of the blue, Tom called me again. I was surprised to hear from him after all this time. Hello, I answered, my heart racing. Hey, it's me, he said, his voice sounding strained. What's going on, Tom? I asked, feeling a sense of dread. I just wanted to let you know that I'm sick, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart sank. What do you mean sick? I have cancer, he said, his voice shaking. The doctors say it's terminal. I felt tears prick my eyes as I tried to process what he was saying. I had never imagined that Tom would get sick, let alone something as serious as cancer. I'm so sorry, Tom, I said, my voice breaking. I just wanted to talk to you before it's too late, he said, his voice filled with emotion. I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for everything and that I still love you. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness, regret, and even a little bit of guilt. Despite everything that had happened between us, a part of me still cared about Tom. I'm sorry too, Tom, I said softly. I don't think I can ever forgive you for what you did, but I don't want you to suffer. There was a moment of silence between us before Tom spoke again. Can I see our son one last time? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I wanted to expose our son to the pain of seeing his father in such a state. But then I thought about Tom and how he was dying. He deserved to say goodbye to his son. Okay, I said finally. I'll arrange for you to see him. Tom thanked me, and we said our goodbyes. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of sadness and finality. This was truly the end of our relationship. A few days later, Tom came over to see our son. He was weak and frail, and it was clear that the cancer was taking its toll on him. But despite his condition, he was still the same Tom that I had fallen in love with all those years ago. As he said goodbye to our son, I saw tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, son, he said softly. I love you so much. As he left our house for the last time, I knew that this was truly the end. Tom had hurt me deeply, but in the end, he had taught me a valuable lesson about forgiveness and letting go. I hugged our son tightly, feeling grateful for the life that we had together. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and that was all that mattered. As I watched Tom's car drive away, I knew that it was time to move on with my life. Tom had been a part of my past, but my future was filled with endless possibilities, and I was excited to see where it would take me.